Hello, 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 hello. One more day. Almost finished. One more stream. I was just playing with my sway configuration for gaps. Hello, hello, hello. How you doing? Wow. I was checking configuration. I put this stuff to 1. Like I put the borders to 1. Can't hear me. Okay, let me check that. Check on your side because my my volume shows as working. I'm gonna write it here. Let me show you. Whoop. My volume seems to be picked up. And if it's not, then maybe I need to do this. But it was showing being picked up. So let me see. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's coming through. So yeah, I don't know. Anyways, I was doing this was not being applied. I don't know. Right. So I want to start moving stuff into the into a single header file, and here I'm gonna go and say this one. And to be honest, I could just quit this one and do into test.h just to get started. And then I'll just remove did I just delete everything? No. Okay, at least it's here. I'll remove stuff that I don't need, so I know that I don't need this. I'm also going to remove these two because I know I won't need them. And then I do need to get started on something like this. But I can't do pragma once because pragma is going to be on the entire file. So I think what I need to do is if and def, I'm going to do test h. I think the double underscore is actually reserved. Then define test h, and then we're going to stop. Okay, good. Yeah, I did a quick check through to Twitch, and I could hear it through the stream, so I assumed that was that. And def, and then here we're going to do if def test implementation, do this, and def. That's going to be like that. Yeah, well, to be honest, earlier I was on Windows. I keep jumping between the different ones, except Mac OS. I just had a machine on Windows that was just I was using to just load a site that I was working on, and it has hot reload and everything. So I was working on this site on my laptop on Linux, and the Windows machine was just there, so I can just refresh and do the some browser dev tools and stuff like that on a bigger screen. And it was all working, and at some point it just stops refreshing. I don't know what's going on, and I tried to refresh, and it just, for some reason, it cannot reach the IP anymore. It just says like can't get to that IP. Like internet works, everything works, but like that IP that my laptop was using couldn't work. I tested from other devices, it works. It was just I just restarted Windows and then it started working. So I don't think it's limited to operating systems. Yeah, Windows moment. I won't be able to give people a macOS moment because I'm not using it. But yeah, but what I have to say though is that there's one time something wasn't working, and it wasn't working because it was my fault, because I did like a system upgrade on stream, and it just restarted the I think it restarted Pipewire probably, and obviously OBS was still running, and restarting Pipewire or OBS running didn't really work, and I just had to reboot the my machine, which was fine. But the rebooting of the machine all the way to starting to stream again was like under 10 seconds. Like it's crazy how fast all that boots up. And I guess it's also because like I've got barely anything running on this machine. It's a fairly light desktop environment, if you can even call it a desktop environment. Yeah, there's not much going on. Anyways, yesterday we did a little bit of a little test runner. There you go. Which basically the idea is you can create a C file, and you can define suites and tests, and then you can just use asserts, and then it just displays that in terminal. So that's pretty much how it works. We're gonna be talking distros. That's gonna be a long chat. I'm using Arch. And not by the way, I actually installed Alpine first because I wanted to use Alpine, because since I've discovered it using Docker containers, I was really happy with OpenRC, and just in general how like simple the things are. I really like APK. That's just working really fine. But there is a little bit of a problem when it comes to some programs that heavily rely on some glibc things, because it doesn't use glibc, it uses Musel, which is lighter obviously, but doesn't have like the full suite of things. And also there's a few things that were a bit off with me, because obviously all the toolkit is not I don't think it's the full core utils. I think it actually uses busybox, so obviously it's much smaller for containers. But sometimes I'd be like doing like a command line, and I'm like, oh, that one doesn't work because it doesn't have the full spectrum of things. In general, I like having a lighter core util thing, because half the time I don't use the full spectrum of it. But yeah, so I had an issue. And so the number one thing is I wanted to use this browser, the Zen browser, and to be honest, I could use Firefox. I actually use Firefox on the machine behind there. The machine behind there is running Alpine with but yeah, so the problem is like, oh, I'm gonna try Arch, and to be honest, it's been great. My needs are fairly small, so I think most environment will suit me. I spend a lot of time in the terminal with a browser that's almost like one. One is like something I can run in terminal, something I can run in the browser. Obviously now in the OBS, but OBS works pretty well in general, and then something that can run RenderDoc, which was a bit of a struggle, but now that I've recompiled it with like the Wayland support, it just works just fine. So I'm not too fussed. But speaking of cool utils and stuff like that, like one of the things I want to do at some point to like stress test my knowledge and learn more stuff is one, do a like try to start having some programs that don't rely on the libc. So see if I can start re-implementing some stuff for fun. I'm not going to do any distribution of that. And then yeah, a bunch of like tools, like little tools like your typical cats and echoes and stuff like that, which I'm pretty sure they're more complicated than it seems from under the surface. There's even like more complicated one like SoCat and Telnet and stuff like that. But yeah, that's interesting. One thing that I can't remember the name, so I can't really recommend the name, but there is a series of YouTube that I was watching that is still ongoing, and it's just someone that just says, you know, how small can you make you know, a Linux that does this? And one of them was like, how small can I make a Linux that just runs a Game Boy emulator? And what the person does is that they go and say, I'm going to recompile the kernel with just the features I need. I'm going to make, and then he just basically doesn't even have an init system, right? Doesn't use systemd, doesn't use OpenRC. It basically, the init system is sometimes in C, he just makes like the tiniest kind of like bootstrap thing. And then in the instance of running this Game Boy stuff, he installed Pipewire, and then he installed the kind of demo Wayland compositor from WL Roots. There's a tiny WL, I think it's called, or WL Tiny. And he basically says, or maybe he used Gamescope, I don't remember. But basically he says, run the Game Boy emulator, Pipewire is running, and then just use this Wayland Tiny thing. So the only thing that the distro does is it has the kernel, which does the features it needs, and it just starts the Game Boy emulator. And I really like the idea of saying like, if you were, with Raspberry Pi, it's a bit different because you could probably do the Raspberry Pi, but like if you were to do a project and say, I want to run a Linux arcade thing, or just like an installation that has a display or just some IO, and I don't want to install a full Debian Ubuntu and whatever, you could plenty, you know, craft this thing of saying, just the kernel with just the features you need, just this and just that. And I thought it was really cool. And he's got a series of videos I need to find again, but it's really entertaining. It just navigates kernel, recompile. I'm going to add this. I'm going to make the init ramfs and bam, 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 bam. And then I think that's pretty cool. If I had like a lot of time and was a bit more risk averse, I would probably try to make like a fully custom thing where it's like, I'm going to pick this kernel, I'm going to pick OpenRC, I'm going to use this, use that, probably install dbus because a lot of stuff rely on it, and just install the stuff one at a time. But the problem that I have with this is that I would love to have something I could reproduce exactly, so that if I want to wipe the system again, I could just have something that is that distro. But I find that like the way to get your system in a good place is you use it, and then you say, oh, I need this package, and you add it. And if you don't keep a log of like what you added, you can't actually recreate it. Even with this one, like it's just Arch with Sway, that's it. But then I've added a bunch of stuff on top of it. And I'm like, oh, I forgot this, I forgot that, I forgot this. And then now I can't recreate exactly this one. Yeah, but I guess also if you use BTRFS and you make a snapshot right at the beginning, you could then, you know, go back to that snapshot, do stuff, and you could do some stuff like that. I'm gonna read this big message to see if I'm gonna get a bunch of stuff that I could get from Artix. Yep, RUnit, great. Yeah, I haven't managed to. I did manage to do an E5 booting thing with another machine that I have. I think I am using cd. I don't remember which one I'm using. dbus, yeah. DWR was great. I really like the idea of just patching stuff to add plugins. I think it's a great idea. I'm sure there's some problems with conflicts at some point, but I think it's great. Pipewire plumbers, typical Lutris, and yeah, I have spent way too many hours on Cyberpunk 2077. I've made 500% playthroughs. So yeah, I did. To be honest, what I'm doing today, like spending 2 to 3 hours every evening doing this, I probably had 6 months from the beginning of 2025 to summer 2025, which was just Cyberpunk, or maybe it was 2024, I don't remember. I don't want to talk about Cyberpunk, I don't want to get into it again. I love it. It's such a time sink. Yeah, I think so. Let me finish the message. So foot. Yeah, I use foot at the beginning. Use kernel having more stuff. Yeah, yeah. I want to have a kernel that just has the stuff for the machine that I need. I like this idea. I very highly recommend Cyberpunk. I did have the same feeling from the outside that it was just a GTA with like a futuristic environment, and I think to some extent it is. To be honest, I didn't play GTA 5. But I never got the sense that GTA 5 was built too much around the story and the depth of story. I know that there is a story, but I think when I hear GTA 5, it's the extended thing with online and it's a bit of a sandbox and whatever. But yeah, but I think in general I'm a big fan of like the cyberpunk universe in this like dystopian kind of thing. So the reason why I didn't play for ages is because so many people were talking about The Witcher 3 non-stop, and I tried it and I didn't like it. And it's not because of the game, it's just that you need a lot to get me into a more medieval fantasy running horses type thing. Like I'm not a big fan of that in general. And because it was the same studio, I was like, I didn't know exactly what to do, and then I just gave it a go because I think a friend recommended it. And yeah, fucking loved it. Yeah. It was great. Didn't watch the show. Maybe I could. Anyways, healthy amount of chatting there. Let me get to some work. Not work. Yeah, I sunk a good amount of hours on Skyrim. I was a little bit too late on the gaming scene to really get into Oblivion, but I've done a lot of Skyrim. When it came out, it was just the right time. And I've replayed it on the plane once on the Switch, which was actually quite nice because the archery worked really well. And it's funny because I just said that right after saying I'm not really a big fan of like the medieval fantasy and stuff like that, but I think the setting is not attractive to me. The implementation could change everything. One thing that I was not really a big fan of The Witcher, and obviously I'm starting with a 3, so I can't really know the whole story, whatever. But I'm not a huge fan of like the cocky main character, and that really put me off right at the beginning. I mean, literally the first scene is this, wide open legs and just like kind of a. But then I don't know the character enough. Maybe I'm wrong. I've heard a lot of great things about Kingdom Come Deliverance, especially the second one, from the same person that recommended Cyberpunk, actually. So I should probably try it out. Yeah, so Casey is going to be Kingdom Come Deliverance, I imagine, yeah. Yeah, I have consumption arcs and creation arcs. Right now I'm in a creation arc. I'm writing code, I'm streaming. It's possible that one day I'll just disappear for 6 months and I just found a game that I just play non-stop. But yeah, it's a bit of a time sink. The other one that I spent an ungodly amount of hours on is Satisfactory. I have just lost so much time on it. And to be honest, I don't even regret 1 second. It's just, I don't know, I just liked it so much. Anyways, good game recommendations, I guess. So I am making a header only style thing. What I was thinking about the other day, there's another header only thing that I did, which I don't remember which one it was. I think it was either I think it was a WebSocket.h in the OBS switcher, which by the way works. I can do this and this and this and this and this, and you get spammed. And I don't remember which one is which. Okay. So now it's key bound to using Sway. I did a key binding, and I can show it because I can. Here. So I've got set OBS scene, which is actually just a OBS scene switcher, which is an actual binary that I made, and I can just switch to whichever I want to with the right keys. But anyways, for this project, I made like a little ws.h, which was WebSocket, And yeah, there was the H part and the implementation, but I added at the top pragma once. And the other day I was thinking about it, I was like, well, actually that wouldn't work because pragma once is going to prevent me from, actually wouldn't that work? It's going to prevent me from including it twice. But I may want to include, no, I don't want to include it more than once. I only want to include it once. I guess the problem that I can see is if something is doing the include, right? And something is doing the include in a dependency of a dependency like an H includes chain, and that's the first one that the compiler is going to find, is going to basically dump all the code there, and that one is not going to have the implementation part of it because it's not going to have the define WS implementation. And then maybe the entry point has the include as well, but this time it has the define. But I'm wondering that if you do pragma once, that is completely negates the implementation because it's already been included once in the chain of things, because I think pragma once just grabs the entire file. So this is what I was thinking. So I think that for this one you can't use pragma once, but you can do an if and def and define, and if you stop it right here, then this is actually included every single time. So every time I do include test.h, this is going to come in, but this is only going to exist if this is defined, which is going to be defined at hopefully in the program only in one place. Now right now I have the same problem that I had with some other project that I had, which is my editor is going to grade all out because ClangD is clever enough to realize that this is not defined and it's going to grade out, and I'm not going to get any ability to do anything. So to solve that, you need to add a file called compile commands, which ClangD is going to read, and is going to figure out that, oh, for this file, this is the compilation this is the command that runs. And what that does is it reads and realizes that some flags are enabled and some are not. So what I can do is I can tell the LSP server, the LSP, because server is already an LSPS, I can tell it, hey, the flag's enabled, but when I compile, I don't enable it. I just set it in the file that I need it. So let's try that. Now, I don't remember the syntax, so what I'm going to do is copy something from, I think it's in OBS client, and compile commands, and I'm going to put in compile commands.json. Okay. So I've got a src main.c, I'm just going to create main for now, gcc, so this is where I do test implementation, and I actually don't need this one, and I just need main.c, and this is just going to be test runner for now, and the output is going to be run test. Protocol, yeah, language server protocol. I think that's what it is. There's too many protocols out there. MCP, model context protocol, which seems like a mishmash of like, yeah, it feels like it was in too early standardization, and then now they can't move it because everything relies on it, and it's kind of stuck. Even LSP is a little bit like that, to be honest. Anyways. There you go. So it loaded it, and now it says, oh yeah, you actually are using test implementation. I can run stuff. Yeah, MVC and MVVM and all of the other good old MVC, the days of Angular.js, when they were trying to bring some enterprise style software to the front end. Oh, let me see. I don't think I need a, basically I don't need a main here. I don't need a test blah. Okay, and then I have some forward declarations right here, which I can simply put right here. So this should be a little bit tidier. I might want to reorder a bunch of stuff as well. Test fail, VS start, flush previous buffer is the one that's a little bit more complicated. Printf, do this, test print, test v print, test end. So I might tidy up like, I might have like a test start, test end, and stuff like that. But for now, I'm gonna clean up all of this, where I don't need any of this, realistically, and I literally all the way down to this one, test blah is the one that I need. Okay, and then main and this. Okay, so this is correct. Now this I should be able to say include. Yeah, I don't need these two anymore. Actually, to be honest, I mean, what does stddef do? Okay, std bool, I'm not using it here either. Arg, no, and int either. So I didn't even need the rest. So this is kind of the syntax that I was that I saw, and actually it wasn't even that, because what I wanted to was to have this be something that you don't even have to type in. It would just be like a test entry point, and it would automatically declare the main and like the test init, like the initialization code, which I don't think I can do without I mean, I guess one thing that I could do is if I do define test main and no, I can't even do that, because if I do this, yeah, actually I could do that. If I do test main is this void run tests, and then int, I don't know if that's really gonna work super well here. I can do int main int argc char star star argv, call run test, okay, and then have a for declaration. Okay, now make sure I add all of these here. Okay, so if I do this, interestingly enough, there is a macro already on the other side, which I don't really need. If I do this, I think in theory, I should be able to just set test main here. And I'm just gonna add the brackets there so the syntax looks okay. Okay, and it actually doesn't look too bad, so I may keep it like that. But what this does is, it's a really weird one, but it does a for declaration of a function that's called run test. It then defines the main function and immediately calls run test, and then it prefixes this, and then that's where the macro stops, and then my curly brackets just picks up where it left. So if I expand it, it doesn't show what it expands to, unfortunately. It's a bit annoying. I guess it shows what it expands to there. So it expands to void, run test, and nothing, and then this then picks it up and becomes a function. So that's kind of like the interesting part. I think you can actually do gcc-e. I think that's the one. And when you say E, it stops preprocess only. There you go. Do not compile. So if I do gcc-e -o precompile.c main.c, that's going to be a little bit tricky. But near the end, I think, I realize that there's tons of. So you see, that's test blah. There you go. So this actually compiles to, or pre-compiles to run test for declaration, int main run test, and then void run tests, and then put it inside and grab all of these in there. So I think that's fine. The only thing that's a bit odd is that it looks like a function declaration, but it's not, because it doesn't have the void at the beginning, which is a bit odd. So maybe I should do something that always looks like one. The other thing I could do is to say, oh, by the way, you shouldn't compile to an executable. You should compile to a library, and then I would have an actual executable that loads that library, find the test main symbol, and just executes that one. That way, my runner would take care of everything. It would just set up the command flags and things like that, and then that would be it. I don't know what I would like. I would prefer. Which one I would prefer? So does a whole test unit is a .so file, and I can literally then say, run test, point to the SO file, and then the flags? Or do I just say every test unit creates its own binary and I just run that binary? It's almost the same thing, except that in the option number 2, I re-implement it. Every binary has the re-implementation of like scanning the flags and stuff like that. I'm going to keep with the binary stuff. I'm really tempted because I want to learn a bit more about like dynamically loading libraries at runtime. And that could be really cool to just say, you give it a path to a .so file, it loads it, and then does run tests. I'm not going to do that now. It's a bit too much. Or am I? Do I want to do that? I'm really on the fence there. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to do that. I like it. And I'm going to learn from it. So, okay, so the only difference is what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove test main, which means I don't have a main here anymore. And the idea is that when I compile it, I should compile it to a library, which I think basically is just gcc-o test01.so. I'm going to do dash shared and main.c. Let me see what happens if I just say, I want to make sure that this is not an error with my, okay, all right, at least it doesn't work here. Yeah, so I think these, yeah, so there's a bunch of them that I didn't do the H. Okay, let's just work on those. It's a bit odd that I didn't get those errors, but when I try to compile it, it does. I guess it's when it does implementation. Okay, I don't know. Oh yeah, because I'm just importing as an H here, so it doesn't find it. But why in here it doesn't warn me about that? Because the one thing that I'm supposed to do, of course, redefine. That's where it's gonna. But this should work better now. Okay, undefined reference to main. Cool. I got no main. That's what I was expecting, anyways. I do a shared one. And then now I'm going to get something, relocation against the suite failed, read-only section text, relocation against the symbol, finally byte value. Yeah, so I do want the fpic, I think is the idea. Positional independent code. And we've seen it 3 times now, so you know what that means. And then now, that means that we have a .so. Yeah, and then now I'm gonna make a I'm actually gonna move main.c to test01.c. Sure, why not? There you go. And then now I'm going to do a main.c. Okay, it has an old buffer there. I just don't want to risk it. Oh, it resaved it, even though I moved it. I guess when I reopened it in new images, did a thing. So this is not going to need any of this because I'm going to get real main. Okay. And now I need to figure out, because I don't know how to do that, how do you just load? I think there's something called DL open, and once I have DL open, I can then find a symbol in it and just cast it to the right signature and just call it. I think that's what I'm trying to do, right? And then after that, I'll just pass that library through the thing, and then maybe we'll do something a bit silly, or maybe not, where maybe you can point to a folder, or like the current folder it runs on, it'll try to just scan all of the .so files and just automatically run them and see what that does. I don't know. Let's start with something simple and say, is there such a thing as DL open? God damn, I can't even type. Okay, man, DL open. I wonder if DL open was like, no, it's not. DL FCN loads the dynamic shared object share library file named by the null-terminated string path and returns an opaque handle for the loaded object. These handles are plugged with other functions in the DL open area, such as DL sim, DL addr, DL info, and DL close. So I think I want DL sim, which we used before, and then handle, and then symbol. So let's try that. Actually, what does it return? A void star. I think it's going to be as simple as that. And I need include dlfcn.h. Okay. And then now the only thing I need is something like this. I'm going to say test01.so. And this is going to be a, I do not remember, it's a void star handle. Okay. Oh, there's some flags. What are the flags? Yeah, so if path is null, returns handle for the main program. That's interesting. So that's how you can just find, when we did the remarkable hack, we didn't do DL open, I think we only did DL sim and passed null. I think that's what, I don't know that, I don't remember doing DL open, but we found symbol in the current program we're running. So this is where there's interesting stuff, right? If the calling object, the shell library or executable from which DL open is called, contains the DT_RPath tag and does not contain a DT run path tag, then the directories listed in the DT_RPath tag are searched. Okay, so you can search, but I give it a path, right? So I'm not giving it like a name. At the time the program was started, was defined to contain a column-separated list of directories. Then these are searched. But I don't really care because I'm giving it a path anyways. If the calling object contains a DT run path tag, then directories listed in that tag are searched. The cache file maintained by ldconfig is checked. Yes, the directories live in USB are searched. So I wonder if I try to give it a full path, it's not gonna like it. I'll see. Automatically loaded, that's fine. Perform lazy binding. Resolve symbols only as the code that references them is executed. Why not? One of the two values need to be. So RTLD1 is the one that I used. RTL. All the ALD bind now is set to a non-empty string. All undefined symbols in the shared object are resolved before DL open returns. If this cannot be done, an error is returned. And then you can add those. Global, local, okay. RTLD now is the other thing that I need. I'm going to put it right there. I'll see if lazy is useful. DL sim, which expects a handle and a name. Handle and test main. And that's going to return to me a void star, but I'm actually going to type it immediately as a void star run tests. This equals, and then run tests. A cool 13 lines for my test runner. GCC -o test runner main.c test runner. Fucking hell, look at that. All right, well, I think this is the pattern that I want. The only drawback with that is that, well, when I want to use this in other projects, it's not just a single file that comes in and then you can just directly compile what you need and run it and get your test running. You actually first need to use that single file to get all of the asserts, all of the suites and tests, and then you need to compile that to a .so, and then you also need to use the binary from the project that would then run the thing. So at that point, I'm actually wondering if I should create two modes. I don't really like that. But because I like loading a shell library like that because it's just fun, I may create two modes. And if I think about it right now, it should be easier to implement. I'm probably going to do a little abstraction of, or like a function that handles the getting the flags. Maybe parse all of the flags from main, argc, argv, into a structure. And then the structure can be used into a function that does the DL open, or into a function if you want to make your own entry point for testing. And then that way, the only thing that changes is like, what do you do to run the tests versus what do you need to do for the rest. And actually, it wouldn't be too difficult to. The other syntax you could use is this test main, and you could have a something stupid like that. And then this would be the you would have a define like this, which would be int main argc int argc char star star argv right, and then you would have something like this test main, because that's kind of the same thing, right? I can just keep it there, and as long as you remember to put this at the bottom, and to be honest, maybe you pass it there, and then that way you just say x, and this is x. That's actually really not that bad. I realized that this is completely wrong. I need to do this. Yeah, this is not that bad. Oops, because what I could do there is literally have parse CLI, or like test parse CLI argc argv, and then just have something that runs the test, and that's it, right? And then if I want to have a version that loads the .so file, then I can literally just have that, except that instead of having the x there, I would just do a DL open and DL whatever. Alright, so I'm going to roll back on what I just did. I think it was a nice test to say, how does DL open work and DL sim, whatever, is fine. I'm going to roll back and say, actually, this is the syntax I'm going to support right now. But there's a path to get to a test runner that maybe has more functionality, and then you just provide your test library as what to be tested. Right, so that means I'm going to move test main to test.h, and we need to start cleaning up some stuff at some point. And then obviously I'm going to need test parse CLI. test parse CLI with argc int argc char star star argv. Okay, and I'm gonna implement it. So switch start. I need to tidy up both this because I could reorganize into, oh, this is for the start and end and stuff like that, but I'm gonna do it. Right. So let's do a bit of CLI stuff. I made a CLI tool somewhere. Let's look at it. Get inspired and make a better one. Nvim. I think it's literally in the big one. Yeah. So I do init. I got a structure. I got a cursor. I do init, and I do next. So I can loop the next, and my cursor moves alongside, I guess. And I can say, is it a parameter? And I can provide a short version and a long version, and it tells me yes or no. And I guess if it is, then I can also do a get value, and it gives me a pointer to that parameter. This is actually super straightforward and super clean. To be honest, I know that this makes sense, but like having an internal state as a struct that you have to pass every time might not be needed, because you could have the cursor and those two values just saved globally. Because how often I'm going to need to have two instances of a CLI parser running at the same time? I don't know. Unless you have like subcommands and each one has an instance that points to a different thing, but like, I don't know. And then the other one is going to be CLI. I can't really run this one because I'm not in the right folder. src common cli.c, and it's super simple. And I think does it use strtok? It doesn't. I guess it doesn't need to, because each of them is a separate thing. That means it doesn't support using the equal sign in your CLI, which to be honest I barely use. I usually always use the space. Okay, I want to do something like that, but what I want to do is so similar that I'm tempted to just copy it, but I just want to write some code, so I'm just not going to copy it and just and the problem is, if I do this, I'm going to want to abstract it, and I may want to just have a version that's literally just the one that I want for my stuff. So test parse CLI. What's great with this is that I don't need a global state. I already got argc and argv. The only thing I need is a uint32t of cursor, which I'm going to start at 1 because 1 is the name of the program itself. And from there I can do a while true for now, and then I'm going to do cursor plus plus, right? And then here I can say if this is going to be the interesting part. If first const char pointer current is going to be argv at cursor. So I loop through the individual strings, which is a pointer to a pointer of a character which is null terminated. Right. If current at 0 is literally a dash, then I know that like this is a name, right? So this is like a cool thing. I know there's like a CLI thing, right? There's a get opt. Is that a real thing? I don't know why I googled this. I could have used man stuff. Get opt and opt string, and it just literally just gives it to you. Passes the common arguments. Argument counter array passes to the main function on program invocation. An element of argv that starts with dash, and it's not exactly dash or dash dash, is an option element. The characters of this element, aside from the initial dash, are option characters. If get opt is called repeatedly, it returns successively each of the option character from each of the option elements. While this is something that I would want to learn, I want to make my own just for fun. So let's get started. Now, what I'm going to do is if current at 1, and that's where I need to be careful with overflowing, is also dash, then in here I'm going to have to do handle word, and here is going to be to do handle character. Now I'm going to try to be safe with this one and start here and say first of all, while cursor is smaller than argc. So I'm going to go through all of them, and the only other thing that I need to do is, it's possible that someone passes just a dash, and for that I'm going to have to say if, well actually if they just pass a dash, this is going to be false, because a C string could, in this instance I don't think that a C string can be of length 0, because you wouldn't receive in argv something that is an empty string. But even if I was, then it means that at 0 I would get a null terminated thing, so that would fail and I would just go. So that's safe. Now if there is a dash here, it means that there is a character at index 1 because it's null terminated, and it would be the null character. If it's not the null character, I'm going to come here, and this is going to assume that I'm getting a single character, and all of the checks that I'm going to do here are going to fail, because I'm never going to check against the actual null character. So this is safe at this instant. If it's not a dash there, then I need to check something else. But what I'm going to do is a const char option and a const char value. And what this is going to do is, if I have a word, the option is going to become current plus 2, which is where if you just provided 2 dashes on its own, then option would be an empty string, because the null character would be the first item. So I think this is safe. And in here, option equals current plus 1. This is actually fairly simple in this instance. Okay. So I'm going to loop through stuff. And the idea is that I'm not going to build up all of the key values that are received. I will handle them as they come. So like whatever they need to do, it'll do it there. The first thing I'm going to do is like a help thing. So I'm going to try to do this help thing. And then here, what I need to make sure is else if, and I'm going to do this to have a default state. If, I'm going to put it here actually. Actually, let me think. If it's a single character option, I shouldn't have a value after. That's the idea behind, like this is the design that I like. I don't really like a CLI where it doesn't follow the thing of single dash single letter and you can pass an argument. I like double dash word, you can pass something, single you can't. Is that something that makes sense? Let me put myself here. CLI standards. There's no standards, but there's usually well, this is probably very good. I don't know if I want to read all of this right now. output, subcommand, argument and flag, positional parameters. So maybe it's not, oh, flags, okay. Prefer flags to args, it's a bit more typing, okay. Have full-length version of all the flags, yes. Only use one letter flags for commonly used flags, okay. Multiple arguments are fine for simple actions against multiple file, okay. Yes. I just want to try to figure out if there's a value, right? Order independent, that makes sense. Don't read secrets, okay, sure. Okay, there's not really a guideline on that, so I'm going to basically say I'm going to set it, it's going to be on a per flag or option basis, that it will be decided whether or not it accepts a value. Yeah, and I think that what I could do is to say if I encounter a dash, then I should process the previous, I should handle the previous thing. So here I'm going to very simply say value equals current, with the caveat of you shouldn't be able to have a value if you don't have an option, or maybe you should. Maybe it's a positional argument. So in here, I have now detected that I've got a new flag coming in, and if I have a new flag coming in, I should handle the situation of you have found something and you should do something with it. That's something I'm going to put into a function. Handle CLI option, which is going to receive a const char star option and a const char star value. So here I'm going to do handle CLI option. I should probably at some point return something that says is it correct, is it not, and I'll return a number and just exit if it fails. I'll probably do something like that. So there's a few scenarios here. They could be both null, because it's going to be the first parameter, right? If it's the first time it comes here, nothing is set, they're both null. So I should ignore that and then wait until that comes back in. So if option is null and value is null, then I'll just return saying everything's fine. One too many spaces. Can you tell I wrote some JavaScript today? Okay. Second, if option is null, I'm sure there's a better way to write those things, but I want to mentally map all of the possibilities first, and then, to be honest, I think I would probably let the compiler optimize all this. I'm sure it can do a good job at that. So if option is null, to do handle positional argument. So this one is a bit difficult because I don't think I'm going to make a positional argument for this just now, but this would require a state instead of just something global. So either the state would be global or I would have to pass some kind of a structure. And then for now, I'm just going to return. And then now, if value is null, then this is going to be to do handle value less option, right? And finally, if you reach here, you've reached something. But actually, this value less one, I may not handle it, because in reality, what I want to do here is first switch on, or like check the what this option is, and then do something with it. Now I am tempted to say that every option that I have has a single letter variant. And then I could have first a normalization step. I don't know, I'm going to do that. Let's do something fun. An X macro, my favorite. CLI options. An X macro, not again. So that's the short version, and that's the long version. And I'm probably going to put them in quotes as well. Right? If I do that, I can then go here and say char opt, and then go if, well, first of all, I'm going to do, well, I'll do the strlen after. If false, this is going to be a little trick here, and then here is going to be define x short long, else if strcmp long with option is 0, then opt is short. CLI options and undef x. Yeah, so this needs to be obviously, otherwise there's null termination. So what this is going to expand to is a series of else ifs that's going to try to compare the long version to what they should match and normalize it into the single letter, which means that then I only need to compare in a switch case what to do with those flags. It makes me loop through all the options twice, but it should minimize the number of strcmps, because otherwise the other option is to handle the logic as I find them, but I think this is more convenient and it's going to run literally once at the beginning of the program and never again, so I'm not too fussed about that. Right, so that's great. So the only thing is, I don't want to do this whole loop. It's not a loop. I don't want to do this whole like else if jump table thing. I don't know what the compiler is going to do with it. I don't want to do it if I already know that the length of the string is 1 character, because then I should assume they're already the single one. So here I should say if it's going to be a little bit interesting. If option at 1, so I'm going to assume that I'm given a string that has more than 1 character in there, or at least 1 character. If this is the null termination character, so I could do strlen, but then it's going to, well, this one I know that if I go to this one and it's 0, I know the length is 1, and I just need to check that the length is 1. So if it is that, then I will set opt to option at 0, so the first character, which is correct. So now I can actually remove these two, and it just works out. So at this point in time here, I can do a printf of opt, the shortened version, and this is going to be a character and opt. Now this is what this is going to do right now. Okay, because I'm writing off code, I didn't run anything yet. The one situation that I'm left with is that if I finish the loop, I may still have something in the previous iteration, so I need to make sure I call this, because there could be something left. And also I need to make sure that option goes back to null and value goes back to null, so that I don't have the leftover stuff. And this one doesn't matter because I'm just done with it. So test parse CLI is here, and now I should be able to go back to my test01.c, and this should work. When I do the test main, which expands into test parse CLI and test main, which means I can gcc -o test 01, or I used to call it run test with test 01.c and run test. Right, and I get nothing here. But if I do run test -h opt h, and if I do --help, I get h as well. If I do foo, get nothing. But it sees an opt and it's not mapped. So at that point, if I set it to 0, for example, I could then say, oh, there's a missing, like you don't have the argument or whatever. But yeah, I need to see what I'm going to do with this, because by deferring the handling of those arguments to a separate function, it gets a bit more difficult to interrupt the kind of loop of parsing the arguments and say, well, you shouldn't run because I haven't provided anything. Yeah, I could have like an enum, and every time, and that parsing the argument, the only thing it does is just find which of the flag I have, so like help and whatever, and then the main loop could handle that. But because I'm doing it in 2 places, it's not great. I should just have something that handles the I mean, I could make it a macro instead, that'd be easier. But yeah, I don't know how I'm going to do it. So okay, triple line is the one that's going to be a bit an issue, because the opt is going to be a dash. I don't know why it said dash actually. It's because it sees 2 of them, and then it says the name of the opt is this, and then it thinks it's 1 letter. What about this? Huh. So --h actually works. I think as a side effect of the looseness of implementation of the program, I'm really not upset about that. I think I'm fine. Right. Let's do a help thing. And once I print the help, I'll be able to get inspired like what flag I need. So let's do probably not the best in here. So it looks like I just need to do usage, some example, and then options, and then a bunch of stuff like this. So I'm just gonna yank that and just try to do something like that. So here I'm gonna have static void print help, and I'm gonna actually paste this whole thing in here. Printf \n, and I'm gonna need a bunch of printfs there. I think I should be able to do this with this and \n, this, escape. Right, so this is what I'm going to do here. So this, I could actually get the argc at 0, and that way I would get the name of the file, the actual name of the file, but I think I'm going to just do something stupid for now. And then there's literally option, and that's it. There's no other options, right? And options, well, the first option that I want is an option that filters the switch to run. I'm going to say name of switch to run, comma, separated. Okay, and this is going to be -s. and I wonder if there's a way to just give it the like both version. So this one says version. Yeah, this one has like these two. Oh, these are links. How do you do that? How do you do a link in the terminal? That's really swanky. I might try to do that. So yeah, it's just going to be this comma thing. So I'm going to do S suites, and then there's going to be like aligned it like that. Okay, help displays this information. I'm going to keep it like that. That's fine. And then now that I've got an example of 2 or 3 of those, I can just do something like this. Okay, and then the other one that I want is the tests. So -t and tests, name of tests to run. Super simple. Help displays information. I may even just add another line return after, so it's a bit cleaner. And I think this one is going to get a yeah, this one's going to stay like this. So switch opt case h print help return 0. Obviously still going to run the thing, but I need to figure out something else. Okay, so let's try that. GCC and -h, it prints the help, and if I do -f, then it doesn't print. And I think what I could do here is, if I default, then you should say printf unknown option, and here I need to pass the actual option that I received, but I don't know about the dashes, so I don't know. So this is going to be option followed by print help followed by return. Let's try that. Unknown option F, usage, blah 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 blah. Now I do want to start getting it to stop running, so I'm going to start returning a uint32. I'm going to return a bool, and then true means continue, and I mean, yeah, true means continue, and then false means stop. So false here would need stop, and here false as well. So you don't want to do anything. And here, to be honest, no values. I'm just going to delete those for now. This is never going to hit anyways. But so now what I can do is I can say I'm going to make a macro for that. I know it's stupid, but I'm going to do it. Define CLI check with an expression, and if not x, then I'm going to do return 1. So you continue, otherwise you return. So here I can do CLI check. Yeah, and this is where I need to start. I'm going to prepare a uint32 for this. CLI check, because I need to bubble it up all the way to the top, which is also why test parse CLI needs a uint32t here. Okay, and now I can go into the test main here, and here I can also do if it's not 0, then I can say return 1, or you know, whatever. I might return the actual code or do something, and otherwise I don't think. Okay, so if I do this, now every time one of my flags says if there's something wrong, or if I print the help on its own, like if I do just h or -- help, it actually stops. It doesn't run the actual tests. Okay, next we're gonna have a global thing in here, which is gonna be const, it might not be a const char, and this is where the suite names is gonna be interesting. Char pointer suites included as opposed to excluded. I'm going to initialize to null and have one for tests. Okay, and then what I can do is here I've actually said there's an S and then a T, right? So here I can say case S, right? Then I will need to read the value, which could be quite long, and I'm going to use a malloc in this instance because I could just like pre-allocate and say you can only provide that many, but I want to try to use a malloc for this one. So what I need to do here is strlen of value, and really what I need to do also is CLI check value, and where do I put it? Where did I put the CLI check something? I had another CLI check something, CLI check. I put it right there. Here I'm going to have a define CLI check value, and this basically says you need to make sure that value is not null. So it's basically saying, hey, this option should not be null. So here, if it's different from null, you actually need to return false. But before that, you can say printf, and then I might need to provide it the option. So I'm going to say option and value. I'm going to check the value, and here I'm going to say option %s requires a value, and this is going to be option, and then just return false. I might even say print usage. Okay, so I can do it here, CLI check value with option and value, and declare print usage, print help. I realize now that print usage is something that I actually like a little bit better. I might change the name later. So now I can guarantee that there's a value here. I'm going to strlen, and strlen is going to return a size t. So size t value length, and I can do a steps included. What did I call it? Suites included. Why did I call it steps? Suites included equals malloc of value len. What am I doing? Let's just do I mean, to be honest, like, could I just keep it? Do I need to str dupe? I mean, what's the lifetime of argc? It's just the whole program, right? So I could just keep a pointer to it. I think I'm going to do that. Yeah. So literally value, super simple, which means at that point I can just have them be const. Okay. Okay, and literally the same thing for t. I don't even need the length anymore, and tests included. Okay, great. So now the idea behind all this is that I can use T and S to basically say, oh, I've got like a gajillion tests in this project and I only want to run this suite or these 3 suites. You can put their name with comma separated in those flags and only these would be included. So that means that when it comes the time to just say, you need to run this function that has the thing in it, then you can just go and just get rid of it. I'm not sure what you're just saying, Vim. I already forgot what I just said. So if you said something in reaction to what I just said, I could have... wrong window. No worries. The thing is, like, because I just forgot what I just said, I couldn't even tell if what I said was relevant or not. Okay, so I think I've got everything set up. The only thing that I'm going to have is to say, well, every single time I'm about to run a test, I'm going to have to check against the list of tests to see if it's in there. And realistically, what you would need is a hash set. And basically say, is this value in the hash set? And go fast. I'm not going to do that because I am not in my hash map and hash set era just yet. So, what I may do is keep an array of pointers to places in the string, and maybe even the length, so that I have all of those, or do something where I can do str ncmp. The problem with that is, like, if what I provide as like a filter is a longer string than the thing that I'm checking, well, I can always check the character after. Yeah, I think I'll do that. This is like not super efficient, but it's just it's not that bad. All right, so well, first of all, I want to try help still works. I can do -s, and it's gonna say unknown option s. Okay, so that's already not good because s is here. I guess it falls. It may. This does need to return, actually. Return. It's just falling through. That's what it is. Return true to continue, and here is return true to continue. Okay. Okay. So it does continue, and it actually doesn't show anything. So this is actually a problem because my value should be set to something, and it's not right now. So check value. If it's not null, okay, obviously that's wrong. If it is null is when you do the early return. Right, now it says s require value, option s require value. Okay, great. And I can do steps, and it says option steps, unknown option steps. It's because I forgot to add them into the list there. This, and then here I can have, it's also because I put steps. Why do I keep calling it steps? Test. Okay, so now I can do steps. It's correct, unknown options. Suites requires a value, t requires a value, tests requires a value. Okay, so we're in a good position. I'm actually thinking that when I do my run test there, I'm actually going to print everything. Like I'm always going to print that test, but instead of doing fail and printing something inside, I'll just put skipped, right? So it's always going to be the full thing, but it's going to say skipped. Although it could be really messy if you just want to run 1 or 2 tests and not show it. So maybe I'll have an option that says show skipped or not. Okay, but let's do the easy version for now. So I guess when I do this here, okay, there's 2 ways for me to do this. For every single test that I run, I could check if there is tests included to set to a value. And if it is, I use strtok to loop through all of the all of those strings, the substrings within the big string, by using the comma as a delimiter. And that would say I can loop through them. But the problem with that is that strtok modifies the underlying string by replacing the delimiter with the null terminating character. Which means after scanning it through once, I would have to do strtok with a 0, which might not be a terrible thing. The other option is I allocate some kind of fixed memory that would be a list of pointers to the start of each string value, which could be comma separated, and then I use strcmp for each of those. I loop through them and I do strcmp or strncmp against the expected value, so current suite name or current test name, and I use the length of the expected value as the limiting factor. And if I go over with a comma separated thing, it's going to fail anyways because it's not correct. That means that they were not the same size. But if I get a 0 back saying yes, by looking at n characters between these two strings, they're equal, it doesn't mean that they were equal because I could have extra there because I didn't stop with the null terminating character. So what I could do is check if the following character after that length thing is a comma or a null terminating character. And if it is, then I know that they're equal and I should run the test. But doing that on every test seems like a bit excessive, although this is pretty fast, and I think any other solution is going to be a little bit silly. And to be honest, instead of strtok and doing it once and allocating some memory, I might scan the string every single time. Because even if you use long test names, the test one is going to be quite annoying because the test could be something like should ensure that int does not underflow. That's really long. And if you pass that as your filter and you have like 3 of them that you comma, then yeah, that might be a bit annoying. And really in the CLI API, what I should do is any test name that contains that string that is in there would then be run. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to say I'm only going to support 1 for now. I'm not going to do comma separated because it's a bit too tricky. It's not, I mean, it's just that I want to have, I've been talking about how do I do this for ages. Let's do a version that does something and then we'll just see. So this one should be very easy because the only thing I need to do here is when I do sweet start, sure, and this should return true. When I do sweet start and I flush the previous buffer, that's correct. Test start, that's correct. Actually, it's in here. In my in here. Here is where I need to check something. So I could say I'm actually going to do if test start fn. I don't know if test flush is going to do anything. And then here I'm going to do the same thing. Ooh, the thing that's going to be difficult is not running. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what I wanted to do it. I read it once, I go through the characters and find all the pointers to each start of strings. I could even do like a str dupe and whatever. The problem with that I have with that is that the current solution I have does not allocate anything on the heap, because I don't have this like variable amount, and I could actually allocate like 512 character pointers and say the maximum number of like inclusion you can have is 512, and everything will be fine, and I can check those. So I think you're right. I think this is the way we're going to go about it. But I don't want. I want a version that just takes one for now, and then make it work, and then I'll just iterate on that, because I don't want to jump straight into like, oh, this is the current thing. Actually, I don't even need to do anything here, because test start is going to be my my key there. Test start. Test start now returns a boolean, and right, and the idea here is to say if tests included is not null, and actually I can just compare then. No, because strcmp is not, it doesn't handle null, and strcmp tests included followed by current test name is 0, then return true. Doing an if and return true is usually not what I want to do, but yeah. And actually I think what I should do, if it's not null and if it's something else than 0, then I'm going to return false, so it doesn't run it. And even before that, I'm going to do the exact same thing. That's going to say this and return true at the end. And then in this case, it's going to be suites included, and current suite name. I think that's all I need. And realistically, I could refactor that to basically say all of this or all of this, negate it and return it, and that would be all of my return false and true. But because I know these two logics are gonna grow bigger, I want to keep them as two separate things. And it's very quiet. Probably need to find some other music. It's interesting, when I uploaded my very first few VODs to YouTube, YouTube actually accurately caught all of the music that I was playing in the background and said there is copyrighted material, but the author is fine with it. Like they said they don't want to claim the stuff, right? Well, I don't know if you call it copyrighted or whatever. So it's a great way to check. I don't know if Twitch respects the same, like does the same thing or whatever. But for a video on YouTube is very interesting. They code it in the background. Another interesting project could be audio fingerprinting, and see if we can play with that. But anyways, too many little projects to do. So this actually should technically work. So if I just run it, now it doesn't do anything. I lost my code. It's here. So if it's not null, and in reality these two are going to be null, and I'm going to return true. So test start. Unless I'm wrong, suites included. The other thing is that I should probably reset, no, because they are, okay, so something must not even run this, the thing. Test parse CLI, return true, handle CLI option. I guess this potentially early returns with a 1. Ah, I'm returning a number. Ah, seg fault. Now that's interesting. I know why. It's because I'm doing a printf on the on test start, and obviously it's null. Okay, so it just runs everything and it's fine. But now if I do -s bar, it did run the, so it displayed the suite and the title, but it didn't run the actual tests. So it's not really what I wanted. So I also want something that just not prints the suite when you enter it. It's fine that you can't hear it anyways. That's I mean, I like listening to music when I do stuff, but I also didn't want to cause an issue with my voice. So if I was, it was a bit louder earlier and I put it lower, and it's because it just distracted me. If I was just coding, it would be great, but talking and listening to music at the same time is difficult for me because I kind of want to start beam bada boom, right? So, you know, just like start like do a little like yogurt dancing. But yeah, I'm listening to, actually I got the actual Ism by Savant, which this one is actually a signed real CD. Real CD. I'm showing it to my phone like a stupid man. My camera is here. Let me put it in big. Ooh. So I got proof of like ownership on that, and it's one of those that I checked, and there is some traces of the internet, allegedly, that it's fine. Like the author said, it's fine. And the reason why the names in the player are all a bit track 1 and whatever is because I just ripped them from the CD directly. So yeah, I wanted to cover all my bases to say not only I did not steal that music, I purchased like a physical copy, but yeah, I thought it was interesting to learn about ripping CDs anyways if I needed to one day. I don't know what genre that is. It's not happycore, it's not it is a bit EDM, it's not really D, it's very M. Yeah, electro dubstep. Don't know if I would dubstep. Oh yeah, dubstep, quite a bit. Yeah, actually that's right. Yeah, I find that like the speed at which I do stuff coding wise often matches the speed at which the music is going. I just kind of like just helps the flow of things. Only when I'm not tired. When I'm tired, it doesn't matter what I'm listening to. Okay, so how am I going to do that? So I could either just have one function that just says if suite enabled and test enabled, but then I have to check it multiple times. Because I want to have this linear thing, I may have to just do that and check it multiple times. It might be like very inefficient, but because I don't think it's going to be that bad if I'm being honest. I could just have like actually yeah, I could just have super simple bool current suite enabled true and current test enabled, and then I can just set it once and read it multiple times. That's problem solved. So now I can just go into test start, which is going to basically do the true and false there. And the suite I could do it only once if I wanted to in a suite start, which I don't know if I actually have. I should probably do it in there. Do I have a suite start? Yeah, so it's right there. But it was literally right there. So I'm gonna put it right here. You're also gonna return a boolean. Okay. And actually, you know what? I'm not even gonna bother. I'm gonna say no. You're gonna redo a boolean, but you're also gonna do, because this is gonna get bigger as well. return current suite enabled, and I don't need to set it because it should be initialized. Actually, I do need to set it because that's how I initialize it. And current suite enabled equals true in an else. Problem with this is that this is extremely verbose. Like, I mean, setting a value based on an if statement is really not ideal. It's just that this is going to get more complicated. It's going to be like, if it's not null, go through all of them, check that any of them do that. So I'm going to keep it like a bit stupid like this, and I am going to replace all of this and do a %s suites. No, it's not going to work. I'm just going to do it by hand because I'm going to have to skip so many tests. Current test name and current test enabled, test and test. Right, so that should be literally the same thing, except that the other thing I need to do is that the current test should be automatically disabled if current suite enabled. And so if the suite is not enabled, or the individual test is disabled, and that way I reflect the test based on that. If I do this, I get the exact same result, except that now I can read current test enabled for all of my need of disabling things, which is going to be test flush, which is going to be a good old if current test enabled. So if it's enabled, then you do want to mem move and mem copy and whatever. Super simple. So if it's so simple, I'm actually gonna do this. So I'm gonna reverse it. Okay. So now I just don't have this, and then the last thing that I need is this thing that print suite foo. Which I think is straight up in the macro. Yeah, and I can just do it here. If suite starts, then print this, which I'm going to do this. Okay. Right. So if I only run bar, I only get this. If I only run foo, I only get foo and all the tests. And if instead I say t blah. Interesting. Like, obviously if the suite is empty, it's not gonna do something. And I also got the problem of it doesn't think that it's the last one because it flushes. So I need to make sure that when I do a start, I should only flush if this is a test I'm actually about to run. So test start does flush previous, and I should only flush previous if the current test is enabled. Okay. Okay, great. And then suite bar is printed. So this, I don't know what I'm going to do with suite bar, because, I mean, yeah, I think that's going to be a side effect, but like, I cannot just know ahead of time how many tests a suite was going to have, because I just do a single pass. So that means that I can't really disable it unless I do something where, again, I buffer all the results and then I can modify the string before I print it, which is kind of what I did for like each test, but I actually don't really want to do that. And interestingly enough, like the number of tests as well, I kind of want that to be correct. So the total I'm going to move the total in here as well. If current suite enabled, we're going to total suites and then paste it there. Right, and we'll do the same thing here, total tests, and paste it right there. That should actually help it. Yeah, so 0 passed out of 1 suite, which unfortunately this one still displays. I'm just ignoring that. So I'm actually not going to implement the multiple of them with a comma right now. I want to keep that for maybe another time. But this is actually in an okay place. The thing that I have wrong here is that all of these, except from test parse CLI, they shouldn't be exposed in the header. I may want to do 4 declarations because I want to be free to like do the thing in the order that I want. But a lot of these could actually be static, except for this one. But like this needs to be exposed, because if I have an H file that I include, I want to make sure that this actually has access to that. So suite start, test start, and then let me see, everything that's in the macro: test start, suite start, and test fail, and probably test pass, or actually there's no test pass. So these are actually all the one that I need. So I'm gonna start by deleting those and moving them in here. 4 declarations right there. And this one is the only one that I need to be re-exposed, followed by bool test start and suite start. And the other one was actually, that one is a bit long, test fail, because it's variadic. I want to make sure I get the right signature. Put it right there. Okay. Right. So this is one thing that I have. Let me think. This doesn't need test init. Right, so this is my syntax. If I wanted to split this into more files, then what I would have to do is to the other files would just either just use a suite at the top level and be included somewhere else, but that would be nasty, or they just declare a function and then the test main calls that function. So if I have like something that has a dynamic array, it could declare a test D array, and I would call it here. And inside test D array, there'd be a suite, and that's it. It also makes me think that I don't need test end anymore, because test end can be inside this test main thing. So if I go into test.h, test main runs the X, but right after I could call test end, which means test end also needs to be exposed. But this one is just a void, I think I know. And test end, it just flushes and then prints the thing at the end. Okay. So this should have the same result. I can just put no flags. I get all of them. I get the results. None of them passed. Echo. I got a 0. So I should. I'm going to look at that right now. I want to make sure that when I have a main here, the function that I run, I basically want to say, what is test main here? I guess test end could return. And then test end is going to return a uin32t. Actually, it might be a in32t, I'm not sure. And then and here I literally just need to return return total failed suites equals to 0 is different from 0. So so I'm not going to test all of the tests, because in reality a suite is automatically failed if any of the tests fail. So if I have 0 failed suites, everything passed, which means this is going to return 0. If I have any, it's going to return a number. So now I should be able to do this, echo, get a 1. And if I was to change my my test, and my test is actually this, and then true. When I run this and echo, I get a 0. So now I could put it in a CI thing and then just look at the result code and just report that. Yeah. So I'm actually pretty happy where it's at. So I'm not going to do much more on this right now. I was thinking that I could actually just like bring it to, because now it's just one portable H file. I could bring it to message pack maybe. And that would be fairly easy, because then I could just, yeah, then I could just do something automatically. I actually want to, I think what I want to do is find a way to define a test that maybe runs the same function but with different inputs, so that the test could receive some inputs and then those are different. And I think this may be a variadic type of thing. I don't know if it's really possible, because unless I know the signature ahead of time, I can't call it properly. And without knowing how many characters, I don't think it's really possible. Because if I have the exact same behavior that I want to test, and I could have like, oh, this is the input that I have and this is the output, and I want to check the exact same logic but check that the output does this, yeah, I think I'm going to skip that. I don't want to do that. One thing I kind of want though is kind of like a load file utility, where you could potentially have a thing that says test with file, or like test f or whatever, and alongside the name you would pass the path to a file, and it would load it, check the size, and allocate the memory that you need for it, obviously read it, pass it to you as a buffer with the size as well, and then when the test finishes, automatically free the thing, because in my message pack that could be very useful. So let's just see if we can do something like that, which because so there's two ways I can see it. One is have a test, like read test file, and then there you would get back, you know, you could just give the path, say buffer and buffer length, and it would just like declare the thing automatically and populate those values. The only problem with that is that it wouldn't necessarily free it automatically when it's finished. And on top of that, I realize that this does not really need to be an int. Oh, I guess it does need to be an int because you return. But yeah, so if you do that, I guess you do need to return 0. What does this return? Test fail. Oh, this never returns actually. Okay, I need to figure out something. I don't need to return anything here actually. That's the thing. Yeah, okay, sorry, I got confused there because there's an internal state that tracks the values, so that's simpler than that. So I could have a read file, but then it doesn't track the thing, or I could have another macro / function here. So you could have something like this, test with file, and then you would have test / input.json, and then that would have would accept the buffer, because that would basically be able to control the start and the end, and then you could just free it at the end. I think it's not terrible. I think it's quite alright. And I wonder if you could also like display which file was used as an input. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Test file, void test file, which is going to accept a const char buffer size t buffer length. That's what I need, and I need test with file. So let's just do this one. This is going to be, it's 1/2 I'm giving myself this as a target, and then I said it should be fairly easy. So interestingly enough, test with file, like I realized that all of my macros there's absolutely no reason why they couldn't be just functions. So what I'm going to do is that my next function technically is going to be a function, right? So test with file, which is going to be name path and void star test fn const char star and size t. Okay, so I got all of these start and end and everything. Test Parse CLI, I'm going to put it right at the end, why not? Okay, and this is just going to be read the file and do something. So file f open path for reading. Okay, if f is null, not marked with throw. I never know with these. Return value successful, 5-pointer, null, and error no is set to indicate the error. Okay. If it's null, we're going to do a test fail. And test fail, if I remember well, in my asserts, I can just say something and it just takes care of it. Great. Test fail and return. And test fail is going to be could not open input file and this is going to receive path followed by str error no. Don't know if that's a real thing. Error number. st error. Yes. Yes. So it was st error. Okay. So that should be pretty simple. Next, I need to do a fseek f0 seek end. Is that the correct thing? And that's going to give me how many? So that's going to be a size t size is this. And actually I think that's not the case. I think I need to say ftell f. That is returning the current position. So size t size is this. Fseek is just man fseek. Can you return something that's wrong? Returns no value. Successful, current offset, otherwise -1 and error is no set. Okay, so I should be able to do it without ftell then. Size t size equals this, followed by if size is -1, literally these two lines, and instead of cannot open, is going to be could not seek end in input file. Then I need to do a fseek f0 seek set. Is that the current? Yeah. And what does that return? It's literally the same one. I don't know what I'm talking about. And I'm just gonna use the exact same error, and that's not gonna be size. It's literally gonna be this d and paste and delete this. Okay, so at that point I've got a size which is going to let me create a buffer, const char star buffer equals malloc size, okay, followed by size t. Well, I got the size already, so it doesn't really matter. F read f into buffer. I think buffer is the last one. One instance of size many bytes into buffer. I think that's what it is. And I don't think that's the, so a stream and the pointer, that's literally the other way around. So buffer and file. I don't know why it's the void star. Like, can you just size and n? Oh, size and n is swapped. Size n. Don't know what it just. I mean, I guess I'm just gonna make it a void pointer if you want. And then this is gonna return how many? Man f read. Man f read. Man f read. Return value. The return value is a short item count or 0. What? On success, fread and fwrite returns the number of items read or written. The number is equal to number. Okay, so basically it's not, if it's not the right number, it's okay. So what I can do there is to say if fread is different from 1, because I'm expecting just 1. And I think it did say the same thing, but like is this an error now? If an error occurs at the end of the target reach, the return value is a short items or a 0. It doesn't say anything about error no this time, so I'm going to remove it. Read error. Just that for now. Actually, I'm just not doing it in the right place. Yank that, put it there, and read error. That's a lot of code with no result just yet. Now at that point, what I want to do is call test_fn with buffer size, and then free the buffer at the end for sure. I mean, that's the problem is that what did I put const somewhere? Yeah, it's not const because I'm writing to it. So obviously, okay. And then I just need to figure out like what else do I do, because I usually do, when I do test here, I just do current test name, if test start, fn and test flush. So I want to do this, and I basically want to do this with this here. So I'm going to grab all of these and delete them. And name is going to be a lowercase name. Test start. There you go, and then flush. So I guess I'm going to basically move these two at the bottom and format all of this. So I think that this should be pretty much what I need, right? If the test is included, then you go in, you read the file, you do a bunch of checks, you go to the end, count how many you moved by, go back to the beginning, malloc the size you need, read into that, and let the thing run. So let's see if this, first of all, yeah, that fixed that issue. And now if I do this, I get could not open input file, test input JSON, no certified directory. Now this, for some reason, gets its own little line there, and it's possible that I'm just not I'm not doing the thing in the right. I guess it's not. I'm not doing any assert there. Yeah, I don't need to do the test fail. I need to do the other one, right? Is that the issue? I need to do what assert does, which is test fail. But when you do test fail, it should mark the test as failed, and then when you flush, which is here, it should add it to the current buffer and then print it, and then when the next test comes in, it just does something. So I think I might be missing something in here. So current test name is this, if test, then test flush. And then in my logic, I have the exact same thing as test fail. So I'm not sure why. What if in my test in here I said assert false, or I'm going to force a fail here. I guess it doesn't even run the file because it's not there yet. Okay, let me figure that one out, and then I think we'll be finished. Test fn and then free the buffer, give the buffer. So yeah, so what it does, it equals test fail, and then I do a return, so I never flush. So I'm going to say end, and all of these returns here are going to be go to end. Good old go to. I really need to get someone to just give me like a 2-hour lecture on how go to is bad, and then ignore that lecture and use it, because it's literally one of the funnest thing to use. Okay, so now it's correct. Failed, could not open file, no such file directory. Great. Touch, well actually, mkdir tests touch test / input.json, run the tests, could not seek read error. Now read error, actually they all call could not seek end, could not seek start, could not read input file. So now it's causing this issue. Now the problem is that in the case where the file is legitimately 0 in size, you should probably not even try. So if size is 0, now I think that if the size is 0, maybe it's a legitimate thing. Like, in what scenario would you ever want a empty file? I don't think there's a legitimate scenario where you would want an empty file. Like, you're writing a test and you say, here's the input data for my test, because you want the contents. You don't want to test something that you read yourself. So yeah, I'm going to mark that as an error right here, and I'm going to make it more explicit, so I can say could not read empty file, file is empty. Right, file is empty, and I can do echo this into tests input JSON. File is empty. Now that's a problem. So I think I'm just not getting the right number out of this. Let's have a little look at OBS client message pack main.c that has a bit of a test thing, has a read file there. So it looks like I do need to do a ftell because I think that what you get back from fseek is that number here by how much it moved. So I think I need to do ftel, and I can fseek again, which is why I was like, oh, maybe I should do ftel, and I just didn't do it. So size is not going to come here, and that means I can move fseek from a thing here to a thing here, and there I can say size t size is ftel of the file. Now, could ftel fail? Upon successful, otherwise -1. So it's going to be another one of those, which str, yeah, so I'm going to do this one, yank, paste it, and here I can say if size is -1, could not get size of input file. The one thing I'm not sure, fseek, like that's the thing, I'm getting a positive number there, so I might not be doing the right thing. What does fseek do? I already forgot. Returns the current offset. -1, okay. So I do need to do a -1 here. If it's -1, if it's -1, if it's -1, okay. Not what I wanted to do. Okay. Yeah, expect false to be true, so that's fine. And then now I can actually do super simple. Yeah, I mean, goto is great. I think the reason why goto does not work as well with some other languages, especially the managed one, is because every time I use goto is because I'm doing some work that needs to be that I need to like do an early return. Usually I just want to finish what I'm working on right now, but I may have allocated some resources and I need to clean those up before I just finish. In this instance, it's the same thing. I go to end. Goto is a bit risky in terms of like fall through, but if it's usually the last thing before your end, then you're fine. There has been instances where it was super useful, where I could actually have like the error and then the end. So you could error and then return value. So you can go to error and it just finishes the function, or you can go to the end and it skips the error and goes at the end. And it's kind of like, it is readable. Like you read from top to bottom, it just makes sense. You just fall through and you jump there, and then, you know, and in reality, this is pretty much what your computer is going to do. Like, you really think that like your if is not just like a goto in disguise. It literally says, if it evaluates to true, you continue, but if it evaluates to false, it's literally go to the address after my closing bracket. So, you know, the computer can do that type of stuff. In reality, this is the only thing that, you know, it can do. And goto is going to be super efficient as well. You could replace it with something that does the cleanup, but you're going to have a call to another function. Anyways, that's my little rant on goto. But I haven't really heard from the detractors, the people that are just not super into it. So I won't be able to say what are the real problems. So here I'm going to do a printf. So the problem with my thing is that everything that I print in those tests is going to be interleaved with the actual test, which is going to cause some issues, obviously, which is a bit annoying. I think there may be a way, like if I had a test runner, I could hijack the std out and then just deal with it. Oh yeah, one is like mega spaghetti, but I guess the point was that you maybe didn't have those control primitives in the code, so you had to simulate them with a bunch of goto, like your loops and stuff like that. You probably had to say, oh, if I'm not finished with my loop, go to the beginning again and loop like that. But it's because it was so much closer to what the computer actually does. And now we've got languages that just does those controls, but in some cases it is still valid. I think it just makes sense. I wonder it would be interesting to see if we could do a stream where we do one project where we don't use the control features. Like we don't use if. Well, actually, you probably need to use if because you can't do it, but don't use while or for loops, and just do them as go-tos. That'd be an interesting thing to do. And to be honest, you could make a macro that just replicates your for loop with a go-to. But yeah, it legitimately gets compiled to that. I don't think it would be a good idea to do it nowadays because I imagine that the way the compiler works is that it probably has optimizations for for loops and if statements. It might not have as many for go-tos. So if you were to replace all of your for loops with go-to, you might not have some optimizations. Only with GCC, I feel like Clang, by using LLVM as the interpreted representation, may actually already compile a for loop into a go-to in the LLVM IR, which means that the optimizations happen on that IR. So, I mean, I'm talking about ass right now, I just don't really know. Let's see what's inside this buffer. Core dump. Okay, not nice. It's just a jump. Except with the one thing is that, oh no, you're right. In assembler it is, yeah. I was going to think about the fact that goto needs the address, but no, the goto uses the label, even in assembler. But if you look at the actual jump in the CPU, then it needs an address. And the assembler is doing the job of translating them into address, which basic was using the line number that you had to provide, as far as I remember, as a proxy to the address instead of having labels. But I'm not too sure about that. And actually, Game Boy opcodes. Yes, on the opcode table. You should be able to find the jump one here. Oh, they're all orange. Oh yeah, you got the increase depending on stuff. Halt is going to jump as well. Where is the one that just goes to a specific address? Reset. Oh yeah, so these are some. So yeah, so jump relative. Because they have different registers. If one is Z or C, I don't remember which one it is. Yeah, this one, jump relative. They all are. I think they are relative, right? JR is jump relative, so you actually give it how far you want to jump relative to where you are, rather than an actual address. Unless it's jump HL. No, HL is I think is a special register. C and Z, I don't remember exactly what these were. Oh yeah, and this was an absolute nightmare to implement. These not too bad because they have colors, you know what it is. But like these are like these are like the computation stuff, and the Game Boy has this like when you have a magic number here, then your opcode has one more byte to read, and then these are like super repetitive, same non-stop. Oh yeah, these are the flags that are affected. Z was the zeroed out thing, and C was the carry flag. Yeah, so you would check these are jump relative if Z is set, jump relative if C is set, so that way you could do some logic when you write stuff. Anyways, that's the only like actual opcodes that I know in real hardware. I haven't learned the opcodes in other places. But anyways, let me try to finish this. I'm getting a core dump. So either my buffer length is too big or there's something wrong. So I'm going to try to print 1 and I'm getting something wrong. Right. So maybe my buffer is not correct. I am a bit dumb. I need to get the number first. Otherwise I'm reading whatever the first character of buffer contained as a number, and then the value 2 as the address. Okay. Yep, so that I'm printing the contents of the file. So now I can actually say, there you go. And then the last thing I'm going to do is, just because I've got a bit of time and I want to add to my assert suites, my assert arsenal, I am going to copy like the assert equal, and I'm going to make a assert str equal expected and got, and this is going to be the only difference there, because here I need to do strcmp and this and 0, so actually I'm going to be different from 0, and then I can just compare the two strings, which means with this I should be able to go here and say assert str equal. Now the problem is that my buffer is not a null terminated string, so I might do a strn equal, which is going to be what I'm expecting first, the buffer and the length, buffer length. So I can actually come here and have a strncmp with these two and n, which I'm going to get right here. And then expected and got is going to be fine. And here I just strn equal. I don't want to say n, it's weird, like strn equal or str equal. Like maybe I should make everything in the strncmp and then have one which is called cstr equal. Maybe I'll do that after. Expected blah got, oh, that's a bit odd. Expected blah got this. I'm probably not printing the right thing. In reality, I want these two to be equal. Okay. So expected s current test name. That's completely wrong. I don't need current test name in any of those. Expected these curly braces got buffer, which is kind of correct because I'm not evaluating the actual value. Am I using strncmp incorrectly? Possible. But I've used it a bunch of times, so I think I remember that the size is the last one. Did I do the right thing? Yeah, n. Did I use it that way here? Yeah, buffer length and buffer. So I know that it is actually those values. I'm doing strncmp. There should be equal, and yet I am getting a expected got buffer. strncmp expected got. Let me see what this expands to. This expands to strncmp curly brackets buffer length. And if it's not equal to 0, then you test fail. But it is right. Am I crazy? Three. Where's my buffer length 3? Oh, you know why? It's because echo added a bloody line return at the end, didn't it? Let's try that. That's what it was. Okay. So at least it's correct in that regard. I don't know how I feel about this str. I might want to do any string comparison is going to be with a length provided, and then I'm going to get a C string variant that specifically says I'll use the null terminator to know where I'm at. But yeah, so pretty happy with this. This is really small, but this feels quite good as like I want to test stuff. I've got a bunch of test function that just does something and use the assert things that I have, and then I can just list all the functions that I want to run. This one's going to be blah with file, for example, and I could just like snake case it if I want to have it displayed in my terminal properly, and then it just runs them, right? Blah with file is okay, they're all okay, everything passed. If I echo the return value, I'm going to get a 0 because everything passed. But I can also say, actually just run the suite foo, in which case bar doesn't, oh, it's interesting, bar didn't even display this time. That's pretty fun, I guess. Oh yeah, because I moved the thing, so it actually doesn't run any tests, so it doesn't print it. I don't remember what I did actually. And this time I needed 3 tests in 2 suites. It still says 2 suites though. I need to fix that. But I could also say only run the file test, blah with file, in which case only blah with file runs, 1 test, 1 suite. This one still displays. So I think it's just in which order it is. And I can have the help. I can do something wrong and it gives me the help. And then I have a thing that says here's a file, and then my test function can receive the file, which means that I could technically have the exact same logic, but give it a different file and then expect a different result. So yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if at some point, because the thing is, I was doing some tests, unit tests in .NET, and one of the utility that I added to the unit thing was it loads this JSON file, and it's an array, and that has like data and results. And the only thing it does is just load the data, run the test against that data, and then compare against the result. And having this idea that like maybe you have lots of tests and they do the exact same process, but you want to check that a given input yields a given output. I wonder if this could be added in there, saying there's a kind of a format where you can just say this is the input, this is the output, and just checks against that. But I'm very happy with where it's at. I missed the key. There you go. Very happy where it's at, and I think tomorrow I want to load this with the message pack implementation that I have, to just basically replace the test utils that I've done there with this new thing and see how portable it is and how usable it is. And then see where I go with that. There's a lot of tests in the bar as well that I need to sort out. And the bar seems to be working, except for one problem, because you can see the bar is running up there, but it's not showing the proper time and everything froze. So it looks like something failed, but it has been running since yesterday, a bit longer than yesterday. So for 24 hours it was working just fine. And we can probably at some point just check the reason why by just doing tail out of device memory. So it is very possible that I have a leak on the GPU, which is odd because I allocate everything at the beginning and don't do anything else. But that's actually at least that's a clear error that I can deal with. A shell script running the day clock and is suspended. I'm not sure what you mean. I mean, in this instance, it is legitimately frozen. Like it actually failed. But it's odd because when I like the error is there, right? I can see the error, and that's the last thing that it did. I don't have a good. When this happens, what it does is it stops the update loop, but it doesn't quit the application. I should really make it quit the application, so when it fails, it's like very obvious. But I was able to use it for like a whole day, and I can restart it with just a keystroke, so it's not terrible. And now it's back on track, and memory and whatever. But yeah, anyways, it's time now, and I'm pretty happy with it. And I really need to remember which of my keybind is which, but I think 2 is code and 3 is chat. So if I do this, I'm in chat mode. Yeah. Anyways, that's the end. You do use this shell script. Yeah. I used to use some shell stuff to do the bar, but yeah, this is all in C. Even the time stuff is using a timer FD, and it just reads the time. But yeah, anyways, all right. Nice to see you as always, and hopefully see you tomorrow. Bye.